PodCastle, episode 943 for Tuesday the 12th of May 2026. At Death's Door by T.R. Steele. Read by Jordan Kurella and produced by Eric Valdes. Rated PG-13, with content notes for second-person narration and, particularly, suicidal ideation. Good morning, good day, good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to PodCastle, the flying castle of fantasy fiction. I'm your host, Matt Dovey, and it is my privilege to present for your enjoyment At Death's Door by T.R. Steele, narrated by Jordan Kurella. This story is a PodCastle original, and I am mighty pleased that we are playing a part in bringing it to the world because it's a story that feels important to tell and important to hear. I want to reiterate that content note for suicidal ideation, because that does not appear in passing, but is the theme of the story. So if you're not in a place for that topic right now and need to step away for your own sake and well-being, I am proud of you. There is no shame in that. Protecting your own mental state is at once the most essential and the most difficult task, especially if you are in a place where the idea hits a little too close to home. The story will be waiting for you whenever you do feel ready. Be kind to yourself before everything else in this world. T.R. Steele is an author of fantasy and gothic fiction living and writing in Toronto. He shares his home with a cat, a blue-tongued skink, several houseplants and an expansive library of plant and animal reference books. His work has appeared or is forthcoming in A Coup of Owls Press, Hearth Stories magazine, Tales to Terrify, Plot Town magazine, The Sprawl mag, Smoke and Mould and Heartline Spec. Jordan Kurella is a trans and disabled author who has lived all over the world, including Moscow and Manhattan. In his past lives, he was a photographer, radio DJ and social worker. His work has been nominated for the Nebula Award, the Sturgeon Award and the LA Times Book Prize. He is the author of the fantasy novella I Never Liked You Anyway, the short story collection When I Was Lost, and the climate fiction novella The Death of Mountains. Jordan lives in limbo with his perfect dog and practical cat. And now pay attention, for our tale is about to begin, and mark you well every step herein.
At Death's Door, written by T.R. Steele, narrated by Jordan Kurella. Here are my instructions for passing through Death's Door. 1. Trap one of them. One who crosses in and out of the realm of death and steal her name by any means necessary. A. This is not entirely the first step, but I want to get to the point. In reality, first you need to find the door. My advice is to find it in childhood. Like most doors that aren't doors, it moves frequently, but is most often caught in the roots of old trees. Usually the tree has survived some sort of deforestation or upheaval. In my case, it was an ancient oak in the suburban sprawl, caged on all sides by duplexes and public parks. Me? I wasn't sure where the door was when I first found it, an impossible shadow shifting at the roots even when the sun was blocked by clouds. But after I followed the owls and bats and foxes through the woods and watched as they slipped through into the gloom underneath, I knew it led somewhere else. B. You'll notice I mentioned owls, bats, and foxes, but there were also snakes, toads, squirrels, rabbits, and even moths on occasion. They weren't normal animals, but others wearing their skin. I learned quickly they could not be lured with cubes of cheese, strips of raw meat, or dog kibble like real animals. These ones responded to bowls of cream, a lock of hair, a trickle of blood. These others wanted offerings. C. I trapped many over the years and learned what I could from them. The birds are the most verbose, save the owls. I'll get to that. The snakes say nothing. The others may respond to riddles, bargains, kindness, or cruelty, depending on your approach. But if you're new to this, as I expect you are if you're reading this, I would start small. Catch something with your bare hands and learn what you can from it. Look for the moths that fly straight. Find the toads that don't linger. You'll know. D. Oh, and I won't be sharing my means of name theft here. That's for you to discover for yourself, but here's a hint. If you could ask someone only one question about who they were, and it can't be asking their name, then what would you ask? Again, after a time, you'll know. You'll have always known. 2. Once you have her name, don't give it back, and don't give her any others, especially your own. Any name is liable to be snatched back and claimed by her, and then she'll have all her strength again. No chain can hold her then. Never speak a name in her presence. A. In my example, I'll be referring to the captured one of them in the shape of a barn owl. It was unfortunate that she was in owl shape at the time I caught her. As I mentioned, songbirds talk, but owls don't. It was particularly difficult to extract her name, but I've been doing this for a long time. 3. She will resist. She will not want to lead you through the door and into the other world. She may try to slash at you with beak and talon, even as you offer her sustenance to keep her alive in this shape, in this world. She will shit like an owl. She will screech like an owl. She will also feign indifference like one of them, insult you like one of them, and try to bargain with you like one of them. Stand firm. You need to break her resolve. You can do that because you are human and she is not. A. This step can take upwards of several months, if not years. I've heard that those in turtle shape and moth shape are particularly challenging for opposite reasons. I managed to get her to concede in a season, one long, arduous summer. I think she smelled autumn on the air when the door's presence grows in strength as all the world around it dies back. B. At this point, you might think I'm cruel. Sure, the owl wasn't looking well. She was thin. Her eyes were dull. She barely lifted her head from her roosting position when I came to see her. The chain around her ankle didn't allow her to fly more than a few feet off the ground. She could reach the lowest beam on the already low ceiling in the barn's loft, and that was all. Her shit and pellets were everywhere. I pitied her, but to a point. This was her fault. If she would only agree to lead me to and through the door, well, she could have ended her imprisonment weeks ago. C. Remember, she wasn't a real owl. She only wore the skin of one. 4. Once she agrees to take you to and through, don't forget to specify that, the door, in exchange for her name. Do not celebrate. It is not over yet. She may try and trick her way out of it. She may try to harm you. She may call for help. But as she is in the shape of a weakened animal, you have less to worry about. Less. Not nothing. Remain alert. A. Put a bag over her head, or stuff her whole body into a bag if it is small enough. I chose the former. I wanted to give her room to move those disused muscles. As I said, I'm not cruel. B. Have you ever seen a barn owl walk? You may think the sight might make you laugh, those ethereal birds grounded. It's not funny. It's like death stalking towards you on pale legs. See, anyway, be on your guard until you arrive. I would recommend making the trek at twilight or just before. Avoid sunset and definitely avoid dawn. I learned about dawn the hard way. 5. At this point, you should be at death's door. Like I mentioned in step 1, it will most often look like a shifting mass of shadows framed by something. Roots, stones, shivering reeds. In this step, aim to be sure it is death's door and not some other door. Again, they can move. By asking your captive. At this point, she should be able to taste her name on your breath and will be eager and willing to tell you what you want to hear, so be careful. If she seems resigned in her answer, it is very likely death's door. A. You can always ask her to step through it. Hold tight to the chain or rope or leash or whatever tethers her to you. If the shadows swallow her, it is death's door. If there's a light or strange music, it is not. Do not enter there. Pull her out and try again. 6. Here is the hardest part, stepping through. A. Yes, even for me. I wanted to die before I found the door, before I even fully understood what it was to want to die. But I chose the door because it was familiar to me. As I said, I found it in childhood. Maybe you did too. B. Also, I don't recommend holding your breath as you step through. 7. Step through. 8. Now you should be on the other side. The owl will not be an owl anymore, but she'll still be attached to the length of the old bike chain if, like me, you kept her captive in a rotting barn-turned charnel house to the skeletons of bikes abandoned inside. Do not let go of the chain, no matter what shape she is now. You still need her to guide you a little further. A. The other I had caught was in her true form then, tall and sharp and moon-faced like the owl she wore, but that was where the similarities ended. 9. Tell her you'll give her back her name once she has led you to your death. At this point, she should agree without hesitation. She will feel her name thrumming in your blood, close to the surface. A. You will not die instantly upon passing through the door. You're mortal and stuck firmly in life until you are not. You can thank me for this. It took me years to understand, to make sense of the many and myriad stories that were said only to be stories. There are a few that are written accounts of passing through the door and then quickly ducking back out before an author found their death. You've certainly read at least one in your time. 10. Don't look back. A. Look around. The other side is beautiful. For me, it looked like the same woodland we had just been in. That stopped me for a moment. I saw trees I knew. I saw the distant glow of windows lit against the dark. I heard the rush of cars on a wet road. Everything was awash in moonlight, even though the sky had been tinged with pink when I stepped through the door. It was sharper, the shadows more defined, and I smelled a bonfire on the air. Not any bonfire, no, but the bonfire I sat before many years ago when I was whole for a time. Something in me wanted to turn around, but I didn't. Not then. 11. Follow the other's footsteps when she sets off. Don't stray. Hold tight to her tether. Ignore any shadows that draw near, sniffing. Don't utter a sound. She will be growing irritated. She wants her name very badly now, more than she wants to harm you. She knows if you die before you give it back to her, she will never have it again. A. You may be led down a path you recognize. We followed the same path I had found when I was very young, lined by dogwood and wild raspberry. It was the same path I would play on for years, running to the trees after the final bell rang with school friends who came and went. The dogwood, our tower. The raspberries, our thorns. Someone would be the princess. Someone would be the dragon. Someone would be the knight. Fight, slay, rescue, repeat. Shades in the shape of those times teased at the corners of my eyes, but when I turned to look, they were gone. As I said, don't look back. 12. When you reach your death, you will know it. She'll say she has fulfilled her part of the deal and will tilt her head expectantly, her beetle black eyes boring into yours, waiting for her name to be uttered. Wait a moment. Take in your death. A. You may be startled by what you see. It may not be what you expect. I was looking at my own form, naked, fetal, lying in what looked like a patch of melting snow. Crocuses and aconite pushed through the snow, reaching for a non-existent sun. It looked peaceful. It looked horrible. I wanted to reach out and shake my own shoulder, see the shade of me blink, open, closed eyes, but the other gripped my shoulder, held me back. Do not wake the sleeping, she said, or something akin to it. My heart was in my ears as she spoke her warning, unless you are in the same dream. B. No matter what it is you see, steel yourself. The next step is one of the more tenuous. 13. Utter her name. A. Or in my case, utter your own, but again, I don't recommend this. The sight of my death had it bubbling up in me and caught in her grip. I saw the blue-tinged lips and the skin burned by the cold, and I was in and outside of myself all at once, and then my death moved. A twitch around the eyes. I called out, unable to swallow it, my own name, acid on my tongue. This, I realized, was not my first mistake. B. Let her have it. You have no choice. Watch as she swoops in and catches the name in her talons like the owl shape she favors. Watch as it disappears down her gullet. Watch as she turns her long, long neck around to look at you, sated back in her power. She will do something with her face that registers as a smile, but then her mouth will split far too widely, become a red hollow that could swallow you whole. You will be looking into that void, dumbstruck, as her cloak fans out behind her like wings as she beats them once, twice, ready to strike. And in your animal heart, all you can do is feel the need to run. See, so run. If you, like me, found the door in childhood and its realm is made out of childhood memories, your feet will know the paths despite the fear suffocating your mind. You might leap through the dogwood and tear through the raspberries. You might see the shadows of your friends folding alongside you, running, too, the sound of their sandaled or sneakered feet on the well-trodden earth filling your ears, reminding you of the games of horses and wolves you used to play. You might hear their laughter you haven't heard in over a decade, maybe two, and it will course through your veins like fire. You will remember then, feeling life beyond life when you were in the woods and you were free to run and climb and fall and come home scratched and bruised and smiling before the weight of your own life crushed you yet again. You might remember how it feels to be alive even there in the realm of death. You just might. 14, go to your death. A. This is one option. Read on if you want another. I understand if you do. I often did, too, even when I was this close. 15. Again, you may have run and kept running, even after the other in the owl creature's shape stopped chasing you, the beating of her wings replaced by the beating of your heart. You may have run back to the oak and thrown yourself at its roots, shaking but clear-eyed fingers grasping for the heat of the soil at the base of the door in this place of perpetual late spring cold. You may have found the edge of the door and scrabbled like a dog in the dirt, digging your way out of the enclosure and slipped through the door. Get out by any means necessary. A. I actually don't recommend this. I would find a rock for smashing or a large branch for leverage, as growing your fingernails back to full form will be another trial. 16. Once you are back on the other side of the other side, you can close the door behind you. No need to harm the tree. You might somehow still be holding the chain, though it'll be shorter than you remember, snapped by the other on her end. Find a branch. Wrap the chain around the end in a flurry and smash the shadows like glass, though they will not shatter, they will disperse like mist in a sunbeam. A. When the door is shut, you might want to collapse in the dead leaves at the base of the oak and catch your breath. When your heart slows and your mind remembers itself, you will realize that you are now nameless and deathless. The world may be open to you now in a way it never was open to you before if you have followed all my steps until this point. 17. Get up. Find your footing. Use the tree for leverage if you need to. Your name won't be in your marrow anymore. It may be hard to ground yourself. Don't worry too much. You'll have time now to find a new one, but first, follow the final step closely. 18. Find a new door. A. Hint. The world is full of them.
And welcome back. That was At Death's Door by T.R. Steele, and his first story at an Escape Artist cast. Welcome, T.R. For a convenient list of links to other stories, including some in audio at Tales to Terrify, head to his website at authortrsteele.wordpress.com/publications. For a convenient way to find out when more are published, follow him on Blue Sky at authortrsteele.bsky.social. TR sent us these notes on today's story. This story draws inspiration from my childhood, when I experienced periods of not wanting to exist, that I would later understand to be a form of suicidal ideation. I spent a lot of time seeking solace in the woods near my childhood home, imagining other worlds and observing the birds, animals and plants that made their homes there. I've dealt with depression for decades now, and while it has made my life incredibly difficult at times, I love my life and this world very much. Without meaning to sound trite, it is full of wonder, possibility, and open doors. Though At Death's Door is certainly grim and a little scary, I hope I have captured that feeling in this story. Thank you, TR, for the story and especially the honesty and vulnerability of that context. This is, I think, a hugely important story on a topic rarely touched on, in part because it is difficult to do well, to do responsibly. I do not think anyone who has not experienced suicidal ideation could have done it, perhaps should have done it. We are mercifully past the peak of the pearl-clutching, hair-tearing, but I should be able to write whatever I want bed-shitting of a few years ago, when it was suggested that, e.g., black people are best placed to write black stories, rather than that slot being taken up by a well-meaning white person. Because publishing, frustratingly, does still see stories reflecting non-white, non-mainstream perspectives as having slots, and is averse to publishing too many, in air quotes, of any such in a year, evidently oblivious to the double standard with, all the usual white, abled, cishet, Anglo-centric narrative seen as a neutral default. I digress. And the point is, and always was, that it's not about what you are or are not allowed to write. No one can actually stop you, after all, but about acknowledging the responsibility of being an author. Today's story was, I felt, responsible with its topic in a way that many tellings would not be. All this throat clearing on my part is because I feel that responsibility too. It is a delicate topic to discuss with the appropriate weight and consideration it deserves, to acknowledge it without condoning it, to witness and understand the very real feeling, whilst also saying, in the strongest possible terms, that the world is undoubtedly and always better with you in it. All of you. Especially you. And I say that, and mean that, because each of us is a unique tapestry of experiences and perspectives and ideas and potential. The world is, almost by definition, the richer for having as many such tapestries in it as possible. In the same way that, to close a circle, publishing is richer for having a greater diversity of staff and stories. Time is a river that flows only downhill. The moments that made you will never recur. There will never be another like you again. I also had moments of not wanting to exist when I was younger. I remember coming home from school some days, maybe 10 years old, so overflowing with sheer frustration at being me, at the inevitability and inescapability of being me, who did not fit and did not understand why, and could not even start to grasp the reasons behind that, could not even visualise the climb towards comprehension to take the first fingerhold. I would sit on the kitchen floor and put my hands around my own neck and squeeze. As Stephen Fry said in a recent interview on The Assembly, broadcast on ITV in the UK, he was in agony in his mind when he tried to kill himself, but he can't now bring back that feeling. Like having had a broken leg, you know that you screamed in agony, but you can't make that pain come back to you now. I'm pretty certain I've spoken before about my atheism, that there is, to my mind, no world and no life but this, and that once these 80 years are up, 5-10 millionths of 1% of the lifespan of the universe so far, that is it, and there is no more, and I will perceive and understand nothing else of what unfolds after me. That realisation, that I clearly remember striking me deep down one night as I lay in bed, about 15, has meant that I have never seriously contemplated suicide since, no matter how dire my mental health. The finality of it, the end of existence, feels to me far more dramatic and unconscionable than the mere threat of eternal damnation promised by Catholicism, for example. The end of perception, of the self. Can you imagine? No, of course not. None of us can, when every one of our thoughts and experiences are otherwise filtered through the ineluctable lens of being yourself. There is so much life and so much world to see and know and love. As an atheist, I do not, of course, think there is a meaning of life handed down to us from on high, a path we are meant to tread. Nevertheless, I think the primary moral precept of our existence is to leave everywhere we go and everywhere we are a little better than we found it. And I think the primary purpose of life for each of us is collecting experiences and perspectives and understanding. These 2 points are, I suspect, the same point, seen through different facets. To live is to see. To see is why we must live. There is more to see on even this one small world than any one lifetime could contain. We should live as long and as fully as possible to know the world as best we can, because to know a thing fully is, inevitably, to love a thing, and the world could always do with more love in it. There is, I think, another reading of today's story. One that the choice of narrator supports, though I don't know if that was intentional for my glorious co-editors. Our protagonist leaves their name behind, and stands, having passed through a binary of life and death, holding a broken chain. They set out to find new doors in a world full of them, portals they didn't know were there before and could not see. They set out to find their new name, which in many respects is a new definition of self. The prejudice against trans folks leaves many with fragile mental health, and far more vulnerable to suicidal ideation than they might otherwise be. One awful, heartbreaking statistic I saw recently was that simply using a trans kid's chosen name in only one additional context, like home or school, predicted a 56% decrease in suicidal behaviour. In one way, the most obvious way, that is a result worth celebrating, because it is such a simple act of support and so astonishingly effective. In another way, though, it is incredibly upsetting, because there are people actively and angrily unwilling to make even that small accommodation, despite its simplicity, despite how much it hurts to deny even that accommodation. But in my experience, there are few people in this world who know themselves as well, or who are as open to the world and its possibilities, as much as trans folk. I am, frankly, envious of anyone who can know themselves so surely. And for this reading of the story, this line in particular gives me goosebumps. The world may be open to you now in a way it was never open to you before. Having talked about responsibility earlier, it is a necessary responsibility as host of this story to signpost you towards support if you are suffering with suicidal ideation. You can find the list of suicide prevention helplines for every country on Earth on, of all places, Wikipedia, under the topic List of Suicide Crisis Lines. If you are currently struggling with these thoughts, or with the conviction that the world would be a better place without you, please, I repeat, you are wrong. The world is undoubtedly improved with you in it. People want and need you more than you can understand right now, and you can heal from this place. Please look up the numbers for your country and reach out to one of them to talk it through, because talking to each other can get us through anything, and there are people out there who not only can help you, but want to help you. Please give them that chance. That was our show for this week. On behalf of everyone at PodCastle, your co-editors were Nini Kamemia and Devin Martin, assistant editor Caitlin Zvanovich, audio engineers Eric Valdes and Wilson Fowley, and our many wonderful first readers, Andrew Cahoe, Balawan Conte, Craig Jackson, Amalia Harrington, Habiba DeCubo, Julia Patt, Kieran Corsini, Tanya Barry, Tava Nova, Tierney Bailey, Zeev Witties, and myself, Matt Dovey. Thank you for letting us share another story with you. PodCastle has long survived on donations alone, and even though there's ads now, subscribing through our Patreon remains the best way to ensure we can keep bringing you one story told well. And if you subscribe at the $7 tier, you can get rid of the ads again. So if you'd like to support what we and the rest of Escape Artists do, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/EAPodcasts through your browser to avoid paying the App Store fees. Prefer another method? There are details for supporting us via Twitch, Amazon Prime, Ko-fi and PayPal, all on escapeartist.net. Or you can reach out directly by email at donations@escapeartist.net with any questions, and someone will get back to you. The legal bit. PodCastle is part of the Escape Artists Foundation, a 501c3 non-profit, and this episode is distributed under the Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. That means you can share it, and please do, but you cannot sell it and you cannot change it. If you want specifics, check creativecommons.org. Our music is by Shiva in Exile. We'll be back next Tuesday with another fantastic tale. In the meantime, you might care to check out our sister podcasts, Escape Pod for science fiction, Pseudopod for horror, Cast of Wonders for YA speculative fiction, and Cat's Cast for speculative cat stories. If your heart belongs to us, though, we'll see you next week. Be safe and be kind.